Hi everyone, we are here to talk about dashboarding with Jupyter. So using Jupyter notebooks, Voila and Jupyter widgets. So who are we? My name is Martin Renou. I'm a software engineer at Quantstack in Paris. And this is Martin Breddels, a freelancer working also for Quantstack. And so Quantstack is a small team of open source developers working from Berlin and from Paris. And so what is the agenda for today? I'm going to talk about what problems we are trying to solve with dashboarding. We are going to make a small demo, and we will try to deploy it on the fly. So what's the problem? It's not really easy to share Jupyter notebooks because the people who you want to share your notebooks with, maybe they don't know about code and they don't want to see the code. They just want to see fancy visualizations and your computation results. So there are some solutions in Python. You can use Plotly Dash, but it enforces you to either change your notebooks or turn your notebook into a Python script. Or you have Panel, which was released a month ago, I believe. But it's only Python. And as you know, Jupyter is a language agnostic. You can use C++, you can use Java, you can use R, Julia. But all the solutions, Plotly Dash and Panel, it's only for Python. So we are working on Voila, which is a command line tool which allows you to create dashboards from Jupyter notebooks. And it fits well in the Jupyter ecosystem because it's based on Jupyter Server and bconvert, and it is language agnostic. So if you don't know anything about web applications, if you don't know anything about CSS, JavaScript, or HTML, you can create a modern web application using Python or C++ or Julia with Voila. But if you know a bit of JavaScript, first, I'm sorry. And second, you can create your own template for Voila for creating a fully modern application using any JavaScript framework you like. So never do a live demo. That's Martin's lucky slide. So I hope it's going to be well after that.
It always works. Until now, at least. So what I want to do is I want in the end to deploy an interactive web app. So what I want to do now first is to make a simple notebook. And because we want it to be interactive, we're going to use SciPy widgets and BQplot. So BQplot is a visualization library built on top of SciPy widgets. So they integrate well. So we're just going to do some imports, generate some fake data, and then I'm gonna create a histogram with 25 bins with this data. And this histogram object is a widget, and it has this bins property, so we put it to 25 here. And let me make this a bit bigger. We can change this being a widget, so if we modify it from the kernel, it will be reflected in the front end, and it will change it to like 50 or 10. But this is not really like a human interface, useful for programmers. But we want to have something like interactive. So SciPy widget comes with many widgets, like a slider. If you change the slider from the front end, so the slider lives in the browser, the value is represented in the kernel. And also the other way around. If I change it to 10, it's reflected at the front end. So there's bidirectional communication between the front end and the kernel. And then there's this really useful tool called link, where you say, well, actually link these two properties together. And now we can have determine what the bin size should be. Okay. Furthermore, I won't go into the details. We'll do a line chart, and we want to have an interval selector. And those that follow the widget tutorial recognize like the observe pattern here. And so what we now have is if we select some data here It will update the plot above. It's not ideal. We can't see it at the same time. There's solutions for that. But what I want to do now is actually, so I want to share this with my mother. And my mother will probably appreciate Jupyter Lab, but she doesn't want to see the Jupyter Lab interface. She also doesn't want to see the code. So how can I like share this with my mother? So the easiest way is to use the command line, or the standard way of doing this. So you basically do like Jupyter Lab and then a notebook, you do Voila and your notebook, and that's it. No code modification needed. You just get, let me zoom out a little bit. You get only the output of the notebook, but the kernel is still connected. So this is not a static HTML page. This is connected to a Jupyter kernel, Python in this case. I can select the data, etc. So if you are doing development, then maybe this command line isn't ideal. So you probably, let's see, where are we? So there are few handy tools. So we have a extension for Jupyter Lab. You click on it, and it will show you like in an iframe like the preview, so you don't have to leave the page. So if I change this, and I hit refresh, it will re-execute the notebook. So it's relatively easy to iterate. If you're a fan of the classical notebook or prefer to use that, there's a Voila button here. So we can do the same, and it will just open a new browser tab and show you the content. So this is all great, but so my sister is using C++. She doesn't like Python. And so Martin told me that it's language agnostic, so I think it's time for him to show my sister, like, how do you use Voila with C++?
Okay. So at Quantstack, we like to work with C++. So we worked on a C++ kernel called Xuskling, which allows you to execute C++ code in notebook cells. So what I did, I recreated Martin's notebook with a BQ-plot, but this time in C++. So instead of NumPy, I'm using Extensor, which is a library on which we work, and you can see it as a NumPy for C++, only that it's faster. And you can use the equivalent of SciPy widgets, which is XWidgets, and an equivalent of BQ-plot, which is XPlot. So as you can see, it takes a bit more time to execute the cell. The reason is that you have to compile the cells and run them. But once the widgets are displayed, it's super fast. And you can open the Voila preview. So this will compile the cells and execute the notebook. And it works. And we are actually thinking about making it possible to pre-compile your notebook so that Voila only executes a binary, and it's super fast to start your application. So as you can see, so Voila is showing only the outputs one after the other on a blank page, so it's not really beautiful. It's not a beautiful dashboard. So Martin is going to show you Beautifying, which is an equivalent of SciPy widgets, but using material design, like Android and phone applications.
So let me go a little bit into why SciPy Beautifying, SciPy Material UI exists. So those that were at the glue tutorial, no glue. Glue is a really advanced application based on Qt, so it's a desktop application to do data exploration. But they want to move to the Jupyter Notebook, or at least have an interface in the notebook as well. So I worked on that, and so I'll show you a bit what you can do. It's just a really simple demo. So you can do a selection, and it will remember that selection has linked views, etc. But something that we couldn't do with core SciPy widget is to have this advanced UI element, where you basically say, oh, I want to make a new selection, and now I want to allow multiple selections. And this thing didn't exist, so I built this at the time using Material UI, which is React-based library. So the idea was kind of like, okay, let's take a look at the modern libraries and see if we can wrap them in widgets instead of reinventing the wheels. Try to build on top of the huge JavaScript ecosystem that's out there. So that's Material UI. That's now heavily in development. But apart from that, we're also doing SciPy Beautify. So you have React and Vue. They're kind of like two very good web technologies. And Beautify is kind of like an implementation of the material design spec. So basically how buttons, etc. should look like in the Vue language. So this is a QuantStack SocGen project. Olivier Baudelier at SocGen is making all of this possible. And Mario Buikhuizen, who's working together with me on this, is basically did all of the work. So let me just show you some of the widgets. So you have like nice, I think you can see, yeah, like if you click, you see this this interaction. You probably see this in Gmail as well, like most of the Google interfaces have this. Various versions of buttons, floating action buttons, like really modern web widgets, like spinners, toolbars, tooltips, and really composable. So out of like a menu and a button, you can make your own drop-down menu. So it's really rich. Dialogues, which we also didn't have, are now possible in SciPy widgets. And we're going to use some of these, this one, the sliders in the application. So let me show you a few more. This is my favorite, because the label actually in this select widget is shown on top of it, and if you click it, it will like shrink, and it's not taking up much space. So the last one I want to show is like a really advanced example of basically copy-pasting some example of a Beautify online and doing some like mechanical work, and have a really like rich widget where I can like play with it, and actually these are all widgets, so I can also like program them from the kernel side. So my dad is a designer, and he said a great job, Beautify, material design. I know how to I know how to do like Beautify and Vue. So let's work together and see if we can make something with like a modern look and feel. So we work together. Let's see. So first thing we did, so it's basically the same notebook, but he told me like if you want to do this on mobile, you should use the Beautify slider. There's some CSS issue here, but we'll see that's not important for later. So you see the change from SciPy widgets to SciPy Beautify is really small. It's quite similar, the code. Okay. We have the same line plot, but we also want to have this, because I really like this select thing, I wanted to have like this. So I want to be able to control the line style. And again, using widgets link, we can link them together. So now I can say dashed, etc. Okay, let me comment out this first. So toolbar. This didn't work half an hour ago, but now it should. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So this always works, right? So now we have the Beautify slider minus the CSS issue. But this is not, for instance, it's not responsive. If I change this, it doesn't really react to it. So so my dad came up with this this great template. So in Voila, you are able to specify your own templates based on Jinja. But most of this, if you know Vue, you would be able to recognize this. So my dad will recognize this. And he made a nice layout with a navigation drawer. These are concepts of material design. So designers know about this. And he put this Jupyter widget mount point with this name. So he basically said, if you're making something, a widget with a name content nav, it will be placed here. And I'll put a placeholder there. And in the main content, make a widget with the name content main. So, okay, I'll do that. So the first is this one. I'm going to create a layout with some padding. So this is all Beautify specific. So that's documented for Beautify. And I'm going to give it some metadata and give this name to this widget. So my dad knows where to place it. Do a column layout and put a slider and this line style in one go. And actually, I'm not going to show this widget. I'm just going to create it. It will show up anyway. And then this is a bit more like tricky. Like it's a lot of trial and error. Like how do you modify the CSS and using flexboxes, looking at examples of how you make like a responsive web app. But give it an hour or something and you should have at least something. So if I zoom out, for instance, yeah, so they're next to each other. And if you zoom in, so this is like the responsive ID. So let's. So how do we use this template? So we do Voila, but then I install this template. It's called Beautify default, and we need to do something else, which was enable first. Yeah, enable. It's not relevant now. We should fix this, but so now it will use my dad's template, and it will actually not work.
Did you save the notebook?
I think I didn't save it. Probably didn't save the notebook. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So you see now this has a navigation drawer on the side. No CSS issues. I can change the line style. It responds to the size of the page. So if I make it smaller, you'll see it should collapse the navigation drawer and put them next to each other. So on a small like mobile device, you'll see this. And the navigation drawer works like this. Sure, but I want to like show this to my mother, right? But I don't live at home anymore, so she can't access this laptop. So can we deploy this somewhere in the cloud? And this is what Martin is going to show.
So I've put this small example on GitHub. Maybe you already know about MyBinder, so you can use MyBinder to turn a GitHub repo into. You can serve a GitHub repo online and have access to the notebooks and run them. But we are using it here.
5 minutes.
Okay. To turn this repo into a Voilà applications doing this. So I can change, instead of doing a path to the notebook, I can say Voilà render the name of the notebook, and I can launch it. So this should take a few seconds and start Voilà.
And,
Yeah,
ah.
it works. So this is using MyBinder. So you can you cannot really send this link, but you can ask people to do that, to fill this form, but you can provide this link here. But that will take like a few seconds to start a server and everything. So instead, we can use Heroku. So with Heroku, you can easily turn this repo into an application and do Heroku, git push Heroku master, and this will create my application. So let's not wait for it to build. We already created one this morning, so it's here. So you see, if I refresh the page, it's almost instantaneous, and it works. So you can easily send this link. You can even try it on your laptop right now. This link should work. And the build takes around 4 or 5 minutes, maybe less. Yeah. So it's pretty fast to deploy your Voila application on Heroku. And all you need to do for deploying on Heroku is provide this proc file in your repo, which is actually the command that Heroku will run. So it says Voila, some options, and the name of the notebook. You also need to provide requirements for your notebook and a runtime.txt file containing the Python version or the language version you need. And I guess that's it. No, you want to show on this?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
take, yeah. So actually, my daughter, and I'm sorry, Rosa, for taking the iPad with me, so you can't watch movies, but so she's not used to a laptop. She only uses touch devices. So if I want to share it with her, that's possible as well. Like this is running on an iPad. So because of the responsive design, it will modify according to the screen size what it should do, and all the elements work, like the slider, etc. So because all the libraries are built on modern libraries, so from your phone or your tablet, you can use all of this. And it's worth thinking. There's a notebook behind this. So and this looks like nothing like a notebook. So I think it's really impressive that using all of these stacks, like the whole Jupyter stack and all the software, we're able to do these amazing things. So. Some small future plans. There's going to be a React-based version, so if you prefer to work with React, SciPy Material UI will be the React-based version. We're going to refactor the template system a bit, so I didn't explain much about it, because if you're going to make a template now, it's going to break in the future. Progressive rendering is, we're working on that to get really fast page loads. And we're working on tighter Jupyter Server integration. There's a lot of work going into Jupyter Server. So conclusion, so Voila builds on top of the Jupyter ecosystem, like Jupyter Server and MB-Convert. So we try to keep Voila really minimal and push improvements into the existing packages. It makes it language agnostic, and using templates and the widget system and SciPy Beautify, you can build really modern responsive web apps. And you can do it purely from Python or C++ if you prefer that, or you can work with your dad or some designer that knows how to do this. So, okay, thank you. Questions? Yeah. Does he like React or Vue? Or?
He likes Python scripts. Is there a way to integrate Voila with a Python script?
So you can do it. I think now there's maybe a pull request open on using Jupytext. So that Jupytext is a tool to convert between notebooks and Python files. And it's basically an extension, again, building on top of the Jupyter ecosystem. And but I think we'll also have like native Python like script support. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
Is it possible to set up a Voila web app with multiple pages, but using a paper?
You want to answer that? So the question was, can you have like multiple pages? And the answer is yes. So if I just run Voila like this, it will see it's a directory, and it will have a different template for showing the content of the directory. So there are kind of two modes. One is like one page, and the other one will show multiple. So I can click one of these, and it should, if it works, should work. So yeah, possible. Also with the same template system.
Is it possible to embed Voila with a regular web page? If I just have some HTML, is it a way to insert it?
So the question was, is it possible to embed Voila? Well, with an iframe, always. I think, I'm not sure if Voila is the right technology, but it's kind of like Voila is pushing the ecosystem into making many things possible. So it is possible. I think the way to look at this is maybe a Thebe lab. But maybe a day from now, I will say yes, fully possible. The whole ecosystem is so flexible that I can answer yes to most of these questions. The question is more like, what's the easy route to do this? Yeah.
Thank you.
So I noticed that when you change the file, you have to manually reload the application. So are there any ends times that you have?
There are, so the question is, do you have to reload manually the Voila preview? Yeah, after changing the file. So yes, for now, but I think, yeah, I'm sure there are some work on master right now on Voila, so that there is a hook that will re-render the Voila preview whenever you make a change.
Ah.
He likes bouquet, so I was wondering if there were other visualization packages that you support.
So we had a dashboarding workshop a month ago, I think, and we had what's his name, Philip from a panel was there, and together we worked on like seeing how we can integrate a bouquet with SciPy widgets. And if that would be possible, you could use bouquet from Voila. But now bouquet is using like their own WebSocket, and we want to communicate over the Jupyter protocols. And if we can get that working, then the answer is yes.
It is working. There's a package SciPy bouquet from Philip.
Okay, so there's apparently, yeah. So apparently there's a Python package called SciPy bouquet that makes it possible already. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, so the question is, can we have access to the repo we've shown? So yeah, everything is on GitHub. So if you look for Voila demo from Martin, so that's the demo that I quickly deployed. Martin Breddels, Voila demo, and yeah, that's it. Also, I made a small Heroku. Yeah, nice.
Just talk and.
I made a small Heroku deployment tutorial. So it's, yeah, this one. Renou, Voila Heroku. So everything in the README. The README shows you how to deploy on Heroku. It's like 10 steps. It's really fast.
And all of these steps should eventually go into the Voila documentation, but yeah, we're sorting out like all the steps to do this. So you're the first to like see this.